What's up, everybody? Once again, it's Brand Man Sean, and I got a very special guest for you guys today. That is Ruslan. This guy is an indie rapper who's built a sustainable fan base and actually has his own record label and been able to transfer some of his fan base to a new artist and is now building that artist up to be even bigger than he was. He has some business insight, some unique Spotify strategies. If you actually watched the other video I did drop in that clip from this video. And he has a very unique branding scenario that a lot of rappers don't have to go through. So I'm excited to show you guys this interview because I know it's gonna bring hella value. Check it out. Let's hop into it.
And I have a very special guest for you guys today. This man has been rapping for a good minute. He's been building a solid fan base, and not only does he have a solid fan base, he has an indie label as well. You own the label, is that right?
Yes, sir. King's Dream Entertainment, based in beautiful San Diego, California. A little boutique label I've been doing since 2014.
All right. And obviously, that's him talking. So without further ado, is Ruslan. Did I say that name right?
You did not. It's Ruslan, but it's okay.
Ruslan?
Ruslan.
Man. God, yeah. Hey, so I want to get this out the way, man. Real quick. Like, I know there has to be people out there who say you look like Russ or like see Russ at all and just mistake you for Russ. You ever got something like that?
Yeah, first of all, as a white hip hop artist, it's always whoever the latest white rapper is. So,
exactly.
Initially it was like Eminem. This is like when I first started rapping. It was like Eminem. Then it evolved to probably like, was that 2012? Oh, you look just like Macklemore. Like I look nothing like Macklemore. You know what I'm saying? Like at all.
That's tough.
And so now it's like, oh, bro, you look like Russ. And it's like, because we're white and we have brown hair. Like Russ is like half a foot shorter than me. You know what I mean? Like different eyes, different shaped face. Like, but that's, that just goes to show. It's like, it's just people want to just simplify you. But no, I don't take offense to it. I think Russ is an amazing artist. I really appreciate what he's done in terms of his indie grind. The deal he landed with Columbia, I think, is great. So yeah, I'm a fan of Russ, bro. So I don't take it. The Macklemore thing, I wasn't a super big fan of because it was like straight pop rap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I like that.
I don't even understand that comparison. But though I sidetracked this a bit, but man, this dude's been, not only is he grinding, been building a legitimate fan base. He's a Christian, all right? That's a very interesting place to be as far as branding. And we're going to talk about that, the fact that there's this thing about being pegged as a Christian rapper. There's already the regular hard indie rapper grind. There's a lot of things that come with that, but I feel like he's one of the people who's doing it successfully. No matter what stage you might be looking at it. So really, man, I want to start here with you. As far as being a Christian rapper, right? What made you decide that you wanted to allow yourself to be pegged as a Christian rapper?
That's a great question. There was nothing. There was no one specific thing. I was a Christian and I made hip hop. I didn't even know what Christian hip hop was initially. I just got radically saved and had an encounter with God. And I was like, yo, like this has to affect how I make art, and I can't do some of the things I used to love to do. And some of the things I thought were corny, I just naturally started doing, like talking about God more, I also had the framework, like a lot of what hip hop was to me at the time in terms of Tupac and DMX was really my first on-ramp to even hearing about God in a non-corny way. And so I didn't have no problem talking about God in my music. Now, as that evolved and it's turned more into a career, then you discover that there's this thing called Christian hip hop and this entire world that kind of operates outside of regular hip hop, but is intertwined now more and more. And so it wasn't like I didn't have any reservations to it because this is just who I am. Like, I'm going to talk about my faith, but I'm also going to talk about, becoming successful. I'm talking about my family. I'm going to talk about the struggles that I've had coming up as an immigrant in the United States and not knowing my, English as a language for a while. So you hear a full scope of that. And for me, I don't mind attaching myself to being a Christian because that's what I am. People want to call me a Christian rapper. I'm like, all right, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you listen to my music, you think it's Christian rap. Cool. Like, I'm not going to deny that because I think if people actually check for the music, they'll know that it's quality. And a lot of people have some type of faith background, you know?
Right.
So what's different about my music is it's not like overtly beating people over the head with the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's different. It's lifestyle music. And I think people that honestly give it an open ear for the most part are like, oh, this is dope. Like, this is fly. And they rock with it.
That's what's up. I can definitely agree with that. It's not like you were beating somebody over the head with your beliefs or anything like that. Whenever I hear your music, I mean, you have some songs where, okay, it might be in the chorus, right? You might be talking about God, but honestly, when you got people like Kanye and so like you hear God so much in music, it doesn't even sound like like you're preaching or anything, and it doesn't really go too much deeper. I mean, you have some songs where you go a little bit deeper, but generally speaking, it's just regular hip hop when I hear it. I probably wouldn't have even thought too much about that if I hadn't seen things where you were mentioned as a Christian rapper.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Kanye, Chance have completely, you know, like desensitized the public's perception of Christians, you know, like where it used to be like, oh, that's whack. And then like, I think Jesus Walks was a big moment for Christians in hip hop or whatever you want to call it. And then obviously with Chance now, who's been open and labeled himself a Christian rapper, which I think is very, very fascinating. I think it's changed the palette of the public, you know, like it's incorporated something different versus like if we flash back 10 years ago and it was like the Soulja Boy trap era when trap first exploded, like there was no real balance, you know, besides Kanye, like there was no real balance. Now that I feel like there's more balance, the Kendricks, the Chances, the Kanyes, who are more overt about their faith view, it makes the public more open to it, I think. And that's a beautiful thing. And I'm not mad at any of those guys, and I enjoy all their music.
Dope. Hey, well, obviously, man, you found success regardless of what people think. Like, not, you know, I'm sure you got a lot of building that you want to do. So, but you're finding success and you've been growing your fan base. Right now, on Spotify, you're at like 73,000 monthly listeners, right? That's a good amount monthly, especially, right? That's a lot of artists want that for one song, but it says you have that monthly. How have you been building your Spotify fan base?
That's a great question. I think understanding the algorithms in terms of what's happening with Spotify. Spotify is doing some amazing stuff. Spotify is essentially, I feel like, I don't want to say competing with SoundCloud, but they're impeding on that space that SoundCloud was in by releasing those vanity metrics. Yeah. And I think it's actually really cool. So understanding the actual algorithm, followers to plays, how many followers, if you have X amount of followers and they all listen to your song the first day it comes out, that's going to set off bells in their algorithm. And so pushing people to the Spotify, pushing people to follow, pre-saving, dropping releases 4 weeks, you know, putting a release up 4 weeks out, telling people to pre-save it, building hype and prep work around the release. Also dropping singles that then go on a project, and then those single streams transfer over by using the same ICRC numbers. I forget what those numbers are, but you can do a super. Yeah. I did a video about it on how to transfer your numbers from like TuneCore to DistroKid. So I think just using the platforms natively, which I know we hear about, you know, from guys like Gary Vee, all that kind of stuff, but using the platforms natively, understanding what it is. And if you like, I got an artist friend of mine, I did a whole video about this, but I got an artist friend of mine who's he's actually my artist older brother, and he had like, I don't know, like 100 followers or something crazy. But his first song dropped and it was at like 70, 80,000 listens. And it was because all those 100 followers went and listened to it. They shared it. And that set off bells in their system. They then Spotify playlisted based on their algorithm. And now his monthly listeners are through the roof. Like, I think he's at like 20,000 monthly listeners. Started with 100 followers. One song out that has like 80,000, 100,000 streams. And it was because those initial 100 followers went crazy when a song dropped.
All right, great. So I don't know if I probably haven't mentioned this in a video, but one thing that you're saying, which is great. And I remember sitting on when my first introduction to really how Spotify works actually was like a meeting with people at Spotify, and they were, and like a few of the playlisters, and they were telling me, she was like, they basically, they listen to the, well, they watch these lists, they watch numbers. Yes, somebody might have the power to put something on their playlist, but after that, it's all numbers. If it's not working, they're going to take it off. It's going to lose traction, and they just say, no, we don't want this on the list. They want the playlist to perform. But on the other side, like she mentioned Khalid, right? A song on a playlist, the song is popping, and they see literally metrics. Okay, what's this song? They might not even heard the song. They just see that it's performing, and then they add it. Let's try it on this playlist. Oh, it's still outperforming on this playlist. Let's try it on another playlist. So what you're talking about in terms of getting everybody that follows you to go crazy on it in one period of time, that spike will at least get that attention. And I think it's great you mentioned that, because I don't think I've mentioned it before. And I know, and I don't see too many people talk about that part. With that being said, I would love to hear you talk about your specific album release strategies that you typically use, because you talk about pre-save, and then there's a few other things I'm sure you do. What do you typically do leading up to the project so you can get that boost?
Yeah, that's a great question. And just to go back to the Spotify thing, one of the things that's really interesting about Spotify is that I do feel like it's leveled the playing field. So like you said, if you got a hot record, even if you got 100 followers, I almost feel like those 100 are at an advantage, because if you can get those 100 to really engage, listen to music, share the music, they'll set off bells. But what Spotify does have, and this is where I feel like it levels the playing field, is they check for their skip rates. So if my song gets added to a playlist, like we got like the Blaze playlist. Shout out to Marty from Social Club. He added a song I have called Wait. It was already on some other playlists. He added it to place, and then he hit me. He was like, bro, like your song is the least skipped song on the entire playlist. So then that set off the bells. They put it on a bunch of more playlists, right? So that's how it snowballs and compounds, because now you can't just be, it's not just about clout and buzz and hype. You actually have to have great music that then they can see if people are skipping over this song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if your song is quality, people aren't skipping through it. Maybe they're even going back. Maybe they're adding it. All of that stuff helps. And that's where it kind of levels the playing field, because major labels can't just be like, we're just going to buy everybody's attention, because you could get on all those playlists. But if that joint ain't knocking and people are skipping over it, it don't really mean anything.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So album rollout strategy. I just put out a record with my artist, Paul Russell, super amazing artist he actually goes to Cornell University. Yeah, he's actually from Atlanta originally, goes to Cornell University now. He's a senior, amazing, really, really dope songwriter, producer. Basically what we did is we announced him as an artist with a single. We started rolling out just singles. We spent a few months dropping singles with music videos. The singles went natively on all the streaming platforms, and then the music videos obviously went on YouTube. We kind of built that hype, announced the actual album with a kind of tentative release date. iTunes pre-orders the iTunes pre-orders had the release date, and the Spotify pre-save, and then we had merch through our own web store. And essentially we use our merch pre-orders and our direct pre-orders to fund the records, if you will. So if we drop a record, and we do a couple hundred pre-orders directly from our stuff, is usually attached to like a shirt or a hoodie bundle. That really funds the record. That pays for the mastering, that pays for the music videos, pays for whatever little marketing we want to do. And so that's something I learned from Seth Godin, was like, let the people fund your records. A lot of artists want to come out the gate and spend $10,000 on a record. And it's like, you probably shouldn't spend that much on a record unless you have some type of infrastructure or some type of support system to at least make your money back. So our budgets are kind of determined by how much people rock with them. So there's certain, like if I'm dropping a solo record, I'll probably do anywhere from 300 to 500 pre-orders directly from our website. This is over like a 6 to 8 week campaign. You do the math on that. I have a bit more wiggle room versus a new artist that I might sign. He might only do 100 pre-orders. Those same pre-orders we attach, to the budget, to where the money comes from, to pay for mastering, to pay for music videos, to pay for the merch, to pay for all these things. And that initial prefrontal load up of hype and buzz and excitement, we give people maybe the record early if they pre-order from us. So yeah, it's dropping on Spotify on October 10th, but if you pre-order and screen shoot me the record, we'll send you the link, 2 weeks early, 3 weeks early. So now people are excited about it. They're talking about it. They're sharing about it. And it might only be 100 people, 150 people, but those 150 people are super, super, super activated. And it just kind of snowballs. And then when the record drops, then there's already been some hype and some buzz. Hopefully you release singles and there's some hype around it. And then, if the music is good, Spotify will use Spotify, Apple Music. They'll usually look out, and help put it on playlists and stuff like that.
But so how do you talk about these pre-orders? Just to clarify, pre-orders they're ordering the music pre-order, or they're ordering like merch, like you said, and then the pre-order is the bundle with the music in it?
Both. So they're usually pre-ordering the album. So we do a digital CD bundle, right? They get the digital early, and then they get the CD bundle, and then we do like a CD T-shirt bundle, and and then sometimes we'll even do like a CD hoodie bundle. So there'll be 3 bundles. I'm actually thinking about completely getting rid of just the CDs in general after seeing Travis Scott like attach merch, to his thing, and just doing like if you want a physical CD, you have to pre-order a $20 T-shirt. You know what I mean? And then pushing those margins up a bit, I think, because if it's like a shirt and a CD, you can sell it for more. So I think I might go that direction. But yeah, usually it's CD, digital and physical, then it's CD and T-shirt, and then maybe there's a CD and hoodie option.
Okay. Got you. Dope. So how is in your system, are you guys developing a fan base? I know yours has been a sense of, you've been in it for a minute, but now you have Paul Russell. So I'm sure you already kind of put him in a sense of a system of exposure, but these are pre-orders. People are actually buying stuff. How'd you get to the point where you have fans who would actually buy a reasonable amount of merch from you?
That's a great question. Yeah, for me, people got to understand, I've been doing this for a decade plus. I've only been full-time for a little over 3 years, but I've been consistently releasing music. We was putting out stuff as a group called The Breaks, me and Belief, back in 07, 08, and then that evolved into us doing solo stuff. That evolved into me launching the label. I was a part of a collective with Belief and Gives called Dream Junkie. So I've been doing this for a very, very long time. But I think for me, I've always focused on the depth. I think I focused on the depth and the things that have made me different. How can I be different? How can I stand out? So early on, when everybody was doing the, whatever, the Soulja Boy rap, the auto-tune rap, in 07, 08, 09, the Lil Wayne era, really, we was super duper boom bap. We was super duper polar opposite of what everybody was doing. So we had way less fans, but we had more depth with those fans, and then we did an Indiegogo campaign. The very first thing that kind of really popped off for us was we did this Indiegogo campaign, and we raised, this is 2011, and we raised like $10,000 just doing a crowdsourcing campaign. But that entire year, we had dropped a remix song a week, where we did, people would email us or tweet us and be like, yo, remix the new Drake song. And we do our own version of the Drake song, whatever hottest song was out, we'd flip and do our own version of it. And so we did that for a full year. And then in that same year, we dropped 3 mixtapes. We dropped an EP, and then we dropped this album that we did the Indiegogo for. And so at that point, once there was so much hype and buzz around it, then people started coming alongside of what we were doing because they just saw the excitement that people had on a grassroots level. And so then we were able to level up, and we had Andy Mineo on the mixtape early on. We had a bunch of artists kind of in our niche on that same mixtape just because they were just excited to work with us. And then the album, we ended up getting Lecrae on the album. This 2011 is called Never Arrive. You can still look it up. I look totally different in it. We had a joint with Lecrae. We had a joint with Shad. I don't know if you know who Shad is. He beat Drake out for a Juno Award in Canada. He's an amazing hip hop artist. He does a thing on. He actually just put out an album. So we had Shad. So they were these people in a similar niche as ours that just was rocking with us, hopped on the records because they saw the buzz, and then we leveled up some more because people who were fans of theirs became fans of ours. Nice. And then the following year, we killed it with this circuit called NACA. NACA, if you don't know what NACA is the National Association for Campus Activities. It's a huge nonprofit. They put together these campus conferences where colleges go to book talent. It's one of the biggest revenue streams for a lot of entertainers. I'm talking comedians, magicians. So we killed it at NACA 2011. going into 2012, we had like 30 college shows booked. So here we are, these Christian dudes that are playing non-Christian colleges and then also hopping on shows. Lecrae did the Man Up Conference in Atlanta that year, 2012. It was like 3,500 people. We got to open. We did like a 10-minute set. He did Francis Chan, Reach Life Institute in LA. Yo, come out, rock with us. Cool. Came out, 1,500 people. Stand, meet every single person that wants to buy a piece of merch, shake every single hand, take every single picture, kiss every single baby. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like you look up and you're like, yo, all my numbers doubled. You know what I'm saying? And then you build those relationships. We was able to then go back. So then the following year, I went and did a tour with Farnsworth Bentley. All those college shows we did in 2012, I maintained half of those relationships, turned around and did like a 10-city college tour with Farnsworth Bentley. So that helped me tap into some of his. So there's like a lot of like intentional stuff I was doing that I really didn't even know I was doing. I was just trying to survive. Like I knew I wanted to do music full time. We was like in debt. We were trying to get out of debt. I was a newlywed, and dude, I was just going for it. And it just kind of keep compounding. And then you look up and you're like, yo, like I got a little following, like I got a fan base, and it's that whole 1,000 super fans, right? I know I have 1,000 people that really rock with me. How can I just communicate to those 1,000 people that, yo, like I need y'all to pre-order this album. I need y'all to buy this merch. I need y'all to come to this show. And then that compounds to locally, like we did House of Blues in San Diego. We sold 500 tickets, real like hard ticket sales in San Diego. And we're independent. You know what I'm saying? We did 200 in LA. I think we did like 75 in Atlanta. These aren't crazy numbers, but they're real numbers that I can build on top of. And then I can take and plug in new artists into. And I say, okay, cool. I got 20,000 Instagram followers. We announced Paul Russell within a matter of a few months. He built 2,000 Instagram followers, real followers. His engagement is crazy. Like he's getting like 400 or 500 likes a photo. And so 10% of my audience is willing to give a shot to anybody that I'm kind of putting on, you know what I'm saying? And kind of compound on that. And now I'm in a place where like, I don't need to rap for the rest of my life because I'm around these kids that are freaks, man. These kids, John Keith, Paul Russell, they're 21 years old and they're amazing. Like, I don't know if it's something in the water or what the protein, they're just so good, bro. Like they're so good. And so now it's just like channeling it through them and helping build up other artists.
Dope. Man, it's so much to unpack there, man. So let me see. Well, you talked about the fact that y'all got on the NACA conference. Say the conference again, NACA.
NACA. Look, if you make clean music, it doesn't have to be like squeaky clean, but if you make clean music and if there's something to make you different, if you do spoken word poetry, that was our end. We did hip hop, we did positive hip hop and spoken word. So we did spoken word poetry. So we do a poem here and there. Dude, that world is amazing. Or if you can do like something of a novelty act where like, say you're like a rapper who does magic tricks. I know that sounds cheesy, but like those be the things that you can really plug into something like NACA and kill it on the show end. And this is where like a lot of comedians got their start. And I just did the last one in Chrisette Michelle was there. You know what I'm saying? Like there'd be like low, like B, C level celebrities that still are trying to like pop in NACA because those colleges have budgets every single year that are allocated for throwing concerts and events. A lot of people don't know that. I knew that because I was on a college board throwing concerts and events. And they'd be like, you got $10,000 for the year. And I was like, oh, I'm booking all the homies. You know what I mean? So I was booking like Ahmad, 4th Avenue Jones, LA Symphony. I was booking all these indie underground artists. And then I was like, yo, colleges have money. I don't want to play churches. That's kind of my thing. Like I'm not big on, I don't mind playing churches, but I like playing colleges. I like playing House of Blues clubs. And so I was like, this is an easy on-ramp for me to build non-Christian audiences, like non-Christian fan bases, and expose myself to people that don't have my worldview, but I know that they would like my music, if it was presented correct.
So what's that stand for again for the people who are watching so they could go make that actionable for themselves?
Yeah, NACA, National Association of Campus Activities.
Bet. Appreciate that. Huge gem. You already dropped quite a few already, man. I want to really get into your music for a second, right? So I've heard a lot of different things, and it might be indicative of your Christian worldview, or it might be indicative of just where we are in music. For instance, like I know in your music, you mentioned having a wife and stuff like that, right? That's not necessarily stuff we're hearing in 2000s, right? But maybe we're hearing that in 2000s Christian music. I don't necessarily know, right? So there's that and a few other things that you mentioned. Where do you see music going? Is it just the fact that people are more open to just different type of relationships, or having a main girl or a wife? Is that cool now, or is that just more just who you are? And I don't know exactly what I'm asking. You get what I'm saying though?
Yeah, no, I think it's both. I think one, bro, being married is so lit. Like, I've been married 10 years. It's freaking awesome. Like,
Okay.
I have, my wife is incredible. Like, I have an amazing wife. I have an amazing, we've been able to build our life in a way where, like, we do what we want, you know what I'm saying? Because we spent time working, and it's so cool to do it with somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I think one, yeah, like, it's who I am. It's really who I am. Like, I love being married. I love having I don't know if you saw my son in here before we got started. I had to send him away because he was knocking over equipment. I got a son who's about to be 4. So, like, I enjoy being married. I enjoy the family life. And here's the deal. Here's the thing that people confuse about faith. Like, people think that, like, yo, God is this killjoy in the sky. He wants to take away all the fun, you know what I mean, and not let me do anything I want. And it's like, no, bro, like, God is the complete opposite. Like, God is a loving father who wants the best for his kids. And if we look at the research for marriage, if we look at what's an ideal environment for kids to be brought up in, where do we find the most contentment? It's not in running around and having, you know, multiple partners and, having promiscuous sex. Like, very little contentment in that. And I grew up in a family where, I don't know about you, but, like, I was raised by a single mother. I grew up, adultery in the household. My mother and father split when I was like 6, after we moved to America as immigrants. So imagine moving to another country as a refugee immigrant, not knowing the language. 6 months later, your dad leaves because he finds out that, they've been cheating on each other back in Russia. And it was just a mess, bro. And so I grew up in a very, very toxic environment. Russians love to drink alcohol. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have a problem with alcohol. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm super into being married. I'm like the hip hop Ned Flanders, and on the surface, like that may look cheesy, right? That may look cheesy, but people meet me, specifically my buddies who aren't following God, or my buddies that are still got one foot in the streets. My buddy, like, one of my best friends, just got out of the federal penitentiary 2 weeks ago. So he's gonna be hanging out and helping me with some music stuff. But those are the people that I care about what they think, because those are the people I want to reach. And those are the people that are like, yo, like, it's so cool you get to play at churches sometimes. It's so dope that you're married and you ain't got to worry about your girl having a side man. It's so, like, they think that being a Christian is cool, even though they're not Christians, because they see the fulfillment. They see the joy. They see the happiness. And my entire life verse is Jesus said in John 10:10. He says, the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. He says, I've come to give you life, and life in the abundance. And I live an abundant, full life. I'm not the richest dude in the world. I'm not, the dopest rapper, but I live a very full, abundant, fulfilling life. And I think that's what we're actually after. I think beneath the surface, like, people are after happiness and after these things. And so we're just medicating, whether it's like, yo, I'm gonna be promiscuous and have multiple relationships, or not be committed, or whatever. And then you see the ramifications of that. You see having someone that has multiple partners and multiple kids with multiple women, and, well, how does that work out for you? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's seldom is a great, unless you're really, really wealthy and successful. And so it's like, I think the practical benefits of the life that Jesus offers me way excel anything else that I could have in the world. And that even just sounds cheesy, saying, like, in the world, you know what I'm saying? But, like, I don't know, bro. Like, I'm just happy, and it just makes sense on so many different levels. Like, logically, it makes sense to me. So you're going to hear that in my music. And I think a lot of people actually want that. We've just been force-fed a lie. We've been force-fed that, like, yeah, you need to see if you have sexual chemistry with somebody and try to have sex with as many people as you can before you settle down. Like, for what? Actually, that shows that people who have a lot of partners end up having tougher times when they do settle down. They end up having dysfunctional sex lives when they do settle down. Like, the research is already out there. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm just happy, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of things you said that aren't. I mean, when you talk about the research isn't even like religious research. It's just straight up research. It is what it is. So it is interesting that it does reflect with the things that you believe. I want to, and that can lead into whole other side conversations. We might have to do something on that these days. But I think that the fact that you're where you are right now is a great thing. But just being someone coming from the outside, especially if this is what you're reflecting right now, initially, a lot of people are going to say, hey, that's BS. There'll be some people who are attracted to you, but then there's some people who's like, hey, all right, that's BS. But that's obviously because they haven't gotten the chance to see your journey leading up to where you are now, right? And I'm sure you're talking about the household that you come from. There's been some interesting spaces that you've been in that just aren't, that you wouldn't go back to today. So I would love to hear a little bit about where you were before you really turned to God. I know it's not that type of interview, but I think it's important for your artist story.
Yeah, I was in a spot, bro, where like, again, I'm 6. My dad leaves. I'm growing up in San Diego, Normal Heights, which at the time was like, it was San Diego predominantly is like a very blood neighborhood, so I'm growing up around dudes. I'm like the one white kid in an entire black neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? And so there's the allure of gangbanging, there's the allure of drugs and smoking weed in the height of like 90s gangster rap. You know what I'm saying? So like my first concert, I think I'm like 8 or 9 years old. I'm watching Snoop and the Chronic and Dr. Dre tour at the San Diego Sports Arena. Like this is like my foundation in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And it was like it was a trip. Like it was a trip seeing that. It was crazy growing up in the early 90s. And so my dad left. We were going to like Armenia. I'm half Armenian, half Russian. My Armenians are loosely Christian. So we were going to this Christian Armenian Orthodox church, more like a Catholic church, but it's Armenian Orthodox. So my dad left. My mom became an alcoholic, or she already was an alcoholic. So she's now a single mom, super duper depressed. The priest of that church ended up, I guess, remarrying my dad to my stepmom now. And we have an amazing relationship. I was over there last night. I love my stepmom, love my dad. But my mom just put a lot of crazy thoughts on my head and kind of was like, yo, F the church. How could they do this? Your dad left me. He technically never divorced me and da-da-da-da-da. So my understanding of church and God was very, very dark, very, very negative, because here is this single mother who gets abandoned by her husband. And now the church, who's supposed to be looking out for her, ends up remarrying him. On the surface, that all looked messy. As I got older, I found out, there's more to the story than that. So by the age of 11, 12, I mean, I'm full on in my mind. I'm an atheist. I'm using that language. I don't believe there's a God. I don't believe there's purpose to the universe. How could there be? My life is a train wreck,
Mm-hmm.
And everybody is so weird. Everybody in my apartment complex, I grew off of 33rd and Adams in San Diego, California. Everybody in my apartment complex gets radically saved, like radically converted. There was my best friend's mom who was pushing drugs. It got caught going to the airport with like cocaine, went to jail, got saved, came back. The entire complex got saved because of her testimony. You know what I'm saying? And I was the one kid that was like, no, that's all BS. Y'all crazy. So literally everybody around me is saved, and they're sharing the gospel with me. God loves you guys. You're going to do great things. And then I ended up I got arrested when I was in 5th grade, breaking into houses. I had to do community service. I ended up doing the community service at their church. You know what I'm saying? So like, but I'm still hardened. I'm still hard to the gospel. I'm still hardened to God. I don't want nothing to do with God. God doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. You guys are all crazy. And then I moved to North County. I got in trouble. I was getting in a lot of trouble. I moved to North County. And North County is where I live now, San Marcos, Vista, Oceanside, the North County of San Diego County. And it was a reset for me. I started playing basketball. I started hooping. I went to a completely different school, predominantly white school. It was like I was in a middle class area. We were still, living in an apartment, all that kind of stuff. But I was all of a sudden in a middle class area, and things just started to change. And man, my story is similar in that, like, I met a girl, and the only way I could hang out with her on Sundays was to go to church with her and her family. So I was like, I'm gonna go to church, you know what I mean? But this church was completely different. This wasn't a Catholic or an Orthodox church. This was like I guess you'd call it evangelical church. Like, it was like, I understood what the pastor was talking about. The music was fly. There's a lot of cool people there. And after wrestling with God for another 2 years and really like studying every other religion, trying to understand what is the difference between Christianity and Islam? What is Buddhism? What is Hinduism? What are all these different faiths? The question I kept struggling with, the question I kept wrestling with was, is Jesus God? Because he's either a liar, a lunatic, or he's Lord. And I read a book by Lee Strobel called Case for Christ. I'm like 15, 16 years old reading all this stuff, right?
Yeah,
I read a book called
right?
The Evidence That Demands a Verdict by, I can't remember his name, but it was a huge book. It was like an encyclopedia type book of like comparing every single faith. And I kept coming back to that, like, is Jesus God? Is Jesus God? And so finally it was like, yo, like either Jesus is God and he is who he says he is and who he claimed to be, or he's a complete liar and intentionally deceives people, which can't make him just be a good teacher, or he's crazy and he's out of his mind, which can't just be a good teacher and a good prophet if you're crazy and you're out of your mind. Those were the three options I was left with. And when I looked at history, when I looked at Paul, when I looked at how radical the world changed before and then after Jesus, I was like, yo, I don't co-sign everything that was done in his name, but he had to be who he claimed to be. And I gave my life to the Lord probably around 16, 17 years old. I was always doing music, but then I got cut from my junior varsity basketball team. So I was like, well, I'm just going to do music. And before I know it, it just kind of compounded. I was like the rapper at school, and I just kept getting better, bro. And then eventually I went to college, which in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have went to college, but I went to college. The internet era hit, MySpace hit, Twitter hit, YouTube hit. And I figured it out, man. I've been an independent musician. So, yeah.
Man, that's an interesting journey to go on at such an early age. That's wild.
It was crazy, man. I definitely have always felt like I'm an old soul, you know what I'm saying? Because I was into like this kind of stuff really young, like really into like God and atheism and all these different things, And I feel like it gives me more balance, like I got a friend right now who's a Satanist, and we have some really cool conversations. I got another close friend that's an atheist. We have some really cool conversations about this stuff. So I think it gives me more perspective, I would say.
Really, that's what I can't even imagine what you just said right there. Those conversations, like
they're fun.
Yeah, we're not even gonna get into that. So check this out, man. You have your own label, but you're not, and you have an artist coming up under you. What do you think you feel like? What does it even take to really say you have an artist under you and to actually make that artist successful when you're an artist yourself?
Yeah, I think a lot of artists are afraid to sign people more talented than them. And so for me, that's always been the thing, is I'm okay with, if you look at the history of the artists that I've signed, I've always signed artists more talented than me and never been afraid to give them my platform. So I think, one, having vision, I think a lot of people will lack vision, so they may have the mechanics of it, but they just don't know what's going on in terms of like having a vision for somebody else that's even bigger than for them, Right. And so I look at artists and I'm okay with people being more talented than me. I'm okay with people, going further than me. I'm completely okay with that. And so I think for me, I think it has to start with vision. I think it has to start with like not being intimidated by somebody else's talent. And then I would say for having something to offer them, right? Like we don't do advances and here's 10 grand or what, like we don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's, to me, that's the debt system. And I don't like the major labels for that, because you get in debt, you stay in debt, your entire career is in debt. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of people don't know, a lot of these major label artists are in debt to the labels, and they're just hoping to recoup. And then it's 4 or 5 albums later, they still haven't recouped. And so I don't believe in that system. So what I had to figure out, what is my value? So one, I could do so much of everything in-house, right? We mix our own records in-house. We can record. We have, a professional studio in-house. So one, I'm offering studio time. I'm offering mixing services. I'm offering video editing. I'm editing video for a lot of these projects. I have the dots and the relationships to find the photographer on the low, to find the designer on the low, to find the cinematographer, the video guy on the low. or just outright do it myself. You know what I mean? If we don't have the budget for it, I'll just shoot it myself. Because that was my last job before I did music, is I actually worked at my church as the video guy. So I could do a lot of video stuff, pretty inexpensive, you know, but I'm also, even that, like I'm trying to put people on to build up video guys and, you know, photographers and designers. And so I think you have to have something to offer them. And so for them, I may not be like, yo, I'm gonna put $10,000 on your project. Like, I don't have that, but one, I don't want them to feel indebted to me. But what I do have is time. I have experience. I have relationships, and I have systems in place that can take a guy like Paul Russell and build them up within a matter of 3-4 months, build them up to 2,000 real active, engaged followers on Instagram. You know what I mean? And then once those 2,000 hear his solo project, it's just going to spread like wildfire, you know, because all you need, again, 1,000 super fans. You know what I'm saying? You get 1,000 super fans that really rock with you. They'll be your evangelist, not to make the corny Christian tie-in, but they'll be your evangelist. They'll go spread the message for you. And so that I would say that's what I have to offer. And signing people more talented than myself is something that I feel like I've always done, and I've never been intimidated by.
That's really interesting, especially being an artist. So many people have that ego so to say somebody's more talented than them is probably going to be hard for a lot of people. But if you want to also be a record exec per se, have your own label, you kind of need to sign people more talented. I mean, otherwise, yeah, it just wasn't work. I think the fact that you have a label, and this is the only artist that you have right now.
I have Paul Russell and I have John Keith. John Keith is amazing. He's an artist from Southeast San Diego. Really, really dope. He sings, he raps, he has the look, he acts. He's a a black kid with natural blonde dreadlocks, and he sounds like a culmination of like, you know, Kendrick and Shmino and Chance a little bit. You know what I mean? He's a monster. He's a freak of nature. Like, these kids are so good, man. And yeah, I'm aware that like I'm a white dude in hip hop. So there's even certain things that like can work against me. Like the tonal quality of my voice may not sound as cool as somebody that, you know, grew up singing in church or grew up, you know, with African-American genetics, that your voice just may sound cooler because you're black. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand all these things. And so not to, you know, using very broad strokes, but there are talent developed, meaning nurture, right? If somebody grows up singing and grows up in a musical household, I did not. And there's just genetics and natural, like, Paul Russell just has an amazing voice. Like, his voice just sounds good. The majority of our records together, he recorded on his iPhone, and people can't tell the difference. I recorded on my $3,000 Neumann. He recorded on his iPhone. That's how good he is. That's just God-given genetics, right? And then there's someone like John Keith, who grew up singing in church. He grew up with the vibe and the soul, so he can come up with melodies super dope. You know what I mean? And the black church is really instrumental for all pop music, really, if we're going to go back to it and take music appreciation class. It all goes back to the black church. That's going to give somebody an advantage. They grew up singing Fred Hammond, you know what I'm saying, singing these songs, these beautiful 4-part harmonies. You know what I mean?
That's real. That's real. You mentioned being a white rapper, man. Do you think white rappers still have a hard time?
I think the white privilege that white rappers have definitely outweighs whatever plight we have as white rappers. That's even, it's like, this is so funny to me. So yeah, like, because I'm white, especially in the Christian space, but just because I'm white in general, like, I'm viewed as more safe. I'm viewed as less risky. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely have advantages getting booked for shows. There's so many advantages just as a white male that I have, that whatever disadvantages I may have, I don't have the coolest voice. I didn't grow up in a musical household. You know what I'm saying? You know, hip hop is a black art, black culture. And so I'm trying to do a black art, you know, like, those are minute in comparison of the advantages that I've had, you know, growing up, just being viewed as a white male. And I've never, like, for me, it's been tough because my first language is Russian. Like, you meet my dad, he looks Arab, you know what I mean? Like, I've never really like identified with white culture, because I've always grown up around black people, and I'm an immigrant. I'm from Azerbaijan, Baku. I'm half Armenian. I'm a refugee. So I've always lived in this weird tension, you know, but the society that we're in views me as a white male, and I instantly have advantages because of that.
Man, that's interesting. That's interesting to hear, particularly because you have that immigrant and black kind of mix versus actually being the more traditional white. But you said you still get those quote unquote advantages. This is how I personally see, like, it's an abridged version of how I see the game for white rappers, right? So let me know what you think about it, how you agree. Now, first you had a hard time for white rappers, very hard time. I mean, you had Vanilla Ice was like the poster boy of white rapper, right? You know, you had the Beastie Boys that did their thing, but that was like a, you know, that was an outlier. But then you have Eminem, right? Mm-hmm. And at first he had his hardships. He was coming up where he was, and it was hard because he was a white rapper and there was already a bad perception. But once he hits a certain threshold of awareness, now there's an advantage, right? Because now all these people that like hip hop music before, like little white kids, that they see somebody who looks like them being a white rapper, and all of them are naturally going to flock to them. Then you talk about whatever white male privilege exists, all of those kind of things. And then you talk about first mover advantage, basically, where he's like the first, like super, like dope white rapper that was acknowledged on that level. And then next thing you know, you have like an icon, right? That's how I look at Eminem's story. And so anybody who disagrees with the first mover thing, it's the same thing with Obama being president. Obviously, things work against him. He gets to a certain level, you get a lot of advantages, not necessarily the white privileged version of advantages, but you still get advantages just as far as your brand and acknowledgement being the first black president, right? You get a certain allure to you. Now, after Eminem did what he did and broke those planes, it's weird because there's nobody who's ever reached Eminem's level or close to it to this day in terms of the white rapper side. But it has opened up a door of a lot of people who kind of sound like him, right? But then a lot of people, a lot of white rappers who have found a lot of success. But it's weird because I feel like the industry's cut up into a space where you could be a successful white rapper, but not be anywhere a part of the main culture in terms of black culture, like the media. You don't have to be on BET or NXXL or Source or Breakfast Club. They don't even have to know who you are. Like, none of those outlets have to know who you are, right? For a long time, a lot of people did not know who G-Eazy was, right? And it was only because one of my Asian friends moved out of San Francisco. I went to visit her, and she was playing G-Eazy stuff. I didn't even know G-Eazy was from like that area. So now it makes sense, like in hindsight, why she was the one who introduced him to me. But there's so many people that exist that are winning and having full careers without the acknowledgement or the okay of the black side of the culture that typically is known for running it, right? Is that pretty much safe to say in terms of the white rapper perspective? I know you don't fully relate to it, and especially you have all these additional like niches like Christian, so you're living a whole nother level of hardship. But how do you feel about some of those observations?
Yeah, I think you nailed it, bro. I think you really nailed it. And I think to go a little deeper on that, I think that is the beauty of niches in the space that we're in, where like you can find people are looking for something. People are looking for themselves in the type of art they consume, right? So like if I watch your videos, it's because I identify with you to some degree, right? Like I see a bit of myself inside of you. And so therefore, I think that's how a lot of it works. And so I think you talking about that is a testament to also just where we are with technology and where we are with culture. Where like, I remember even Murs on Hip Hop DX did this thing called Hick Hop, where it was like country Confederate flag hanging white dudes rapping. And I just was like, this is weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. But I think that's where we are as a culture. So that's cool. That's dope. You know what I'm saying? But I think the tough part for me is that I think there still has to be a level of reverence for, like, bro, this is black culture. This is black art. Like, I'm white, but I'm a guest. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be respectful of the space. Like, you have to have some type of framework and foundational understanding. And I think some white rappers don't display that. You know what I'm saying? Some whether it's like Iggy Azalea, and just you could just tell she's just kind of ditzy. She doesn't understand like what this is. You know, there's no context of culture. Or you know, a kid like Lil Xan saying that Tupac is boring. You know what I mean? And it's like, bro, like, no. Like, you don't get to make a social or musical critique of Tupac ever. Like, that's just be a rule. Like, white rappers can't say anything negative about Tupac ever. You understand? Like, so I think that's the disconnect.
Yeah. Like, you don't. Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned that Little Xan thing. I didn't even thought about that comment before that he made. I kind of just dismissed it at the time, but just to think of the fact that he's already younger, and then he doesn't relate to any of the. He doesn't understand. So to judge what he doesn't understand, it's just weird that his team even let him say what he was saying.
It'd be like me trying to like dissect the Beatles catalog. Like, bro, like, I'm so far removed as a 16-year-old. Like, I'm so far removed from the Beatles. Like, okay, I like a little U2, you know, like a little Coldplay. I don't understand the Beatles and what the cultural nuance and the significance was of what they were doing back then. Like, so I'm just gonna be like, oh yeah, they're legends, they're icons. Next question. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. One more on this subject, right? Post Malone is like the biggest white rapper right now, quote unquote. But what's your view of Post Malone and the way that he's moved throughout the game?
Yeah, I think Post Malone is freakishly talented. I like his music melodically. I think he does really cool stuff. I think it's even more interesting how he came up. I don't know if you saw the whole, like, he moved to LA with some YouTube video gamers, you know, and so I think even the way they try to tell that story, this rags to riches story, like, nah, like, he has some homies that were doing YouTube full time, living in a mansion, and he was living with them. So when he got ready to do music, I feel like there had to have been some type of outlets and platforms for him to get on, even if it's just building relationships with blogs or whatever, you know, whatever was popping at the time. So I think his story is interesting, and the way they use technology and YouTube to get on is fascinating. I think, you know what, I would agree with him, honestly, in that I don't think he's a rapper. Like, I've never saw him as a rapper. When I first heard him, I was like, oh, this is like T-Pain, you know, like this is like that wave, like this is like a white T-Pain. I don't think T-Pain is a rapper, you know what I'm saying? I think T-Pain is a singer that makes hip hop, you know. So I think T-Pain or Post Malone is a singer that makes hip hop, you know. And so I agree, like, yeah, you're not really a rapper, you know, but I guess those lines are getting blurred. I think some of his comments in terms of just like genres and all this kind of stuff, I think I get it, but I think it's like, bro, you want to make diverse music, dope. Like, you love country, dope. Like, I'm not mad at any of that. Just don't come into the space and poop on hip hop. Like, don't poop on this culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like we should be, as white males, like, we should be the most empathetic and the most white males in hip hop. We should be the most sensitive, the most empathetic towards the plight of Black people, if you actually understand what hip hop is. Like, and I'm like, bro, I just told you, like, one of my best friends just got out of the feds. Like, he did 10 years, you know what I'm saying? Before that, he did 5. He spent his entire adult natural life behind bars. I'm well aware of how the system works. I'm well aware of the revolving door. I'm well aware of like, so it's like, I'm so humble and empathetic towards the struggle of Black people. How could I ever say anything sideways or weird about, like, Black culture or hip hop culture and be like, oh, well, no, there's no more genre, you know? So I just think some of that stuff he said is just, I don't know. I think it's in poor taste at the least.
Okay. Yeah. I think I definitely agree with everything you said. I think my biggest thing when it comes to Post Malone is there's a disconnect somewhere between maybe the things he's saying, but then because he might say all these things about branding, and I don't want this type of allure. I don't want to be a rapper. I don't want to necessarily be even hip hop. But when you look at, I don't know who did branded him and brought his image about, but it wasn't him. I'm pretty sure it wasn't him. It was a team around him. He was branded as a rapper or deep hip hop imagery wise. Like, if you look at him when he was with the video gamers, the short shorts, the goof. He was goofy. He was like the stereotypical goofy white guy, that white humor, all of that stuff. Nothing wrong with it. I watch TV, like plenty of shows and stuff. Like I laugh. I thought that was funny too, right? But then you look at him, almost like instantly, he's this other image with the braids, the golds, and he's that image. So once you start to speak down on that culture and you see this instant change, it kind of feels like, I don't know, it starts to feel like you don't appreciate a culture that you're moving, and that's why people say stuff like culture virtual and things like that. Obviously, he's talented. Nobody can deny he's talented, and being talented and making dope music doesn't necessarily mean that you have a great perspective on what you're doing or how you go about your business.
I think it's the team at Universal Republic. I think the label that he signed to, like, he may say like, I don't make hip hop, but it's like, bruh, like they're branding you as a hip hop artist.
They're branding you.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think they know what they're doing. I think they know what they're doing.
Like, I mean, he even started talking different, to be real, but like, it's very clear. So somebody has to make that decision and figure out how they want to get him. But I mean, obviously his music is so good that it's outweighing a lot of those other issues. So it's irrelevant. But I don't really put a lot of that stuff on the artist like a lot of people do. Maybe I should do a video on it. But but it's definitely somebody on the team where there's some intentional moves that are a complete contrast to the stuff that he says, which has just been weird with him. But cool, it's real dope to get your opinion and your perspective on that. Getting back to some of the things when it comes to you, man, like your style is typically more lyrical, right? If I think about the Indie Jones 2 project, definitely a little bit more lyrical. And then when I think about the joint project, well, was that supposed to be like a full collab, right? The Via Text, you and Paul Russell?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more laid back. It feels more like a collaboration. Doesn't feel like anybody's trying to necessarily super outshine one or other or go hard. But your solo projects, you're more of a, you seem to like, you have the I go hard type style, if that makes sense. What makes you as an artist more of a lyrical, how do I want to say this? What makes you go the lyrical route more versus trying to open up and be a lot more melodic? You have people on your choruses and things like that, and you have some pretty dope choruses, right? Like I know the one, I think it's cool. It's cool song. You have like 2 songs I really love the chorus, but it doesn't seem like you put too much effort in, or too much energy into the actual chorus as far as saying, I gotta be that guy. You just leave it, you do your lyrics, and then you'll bring in a dope singer, or you'll have a nice chorus, but it's all about them lyrics. What leaves you as that in an age where you could be blowing up and making viral songs on a bigger playing field at this point?
Yeah, that's a great question. Man, self-awareness. Like, okay. I know that I'm not the melodic guy, you know, as much as I would love to be. Like, I would love to do real cool melodies and all that kind of stuff. I'm just not, I'm not that guy. And maybe I need to spend a season, you know, getting vocal training and trying to become that, you know, working on that side of things. I'm not that guy. So instead of like trying to do, like if I did auto tune, like I don't think I'm in a space right now where I have the natural talent or the natural spark of like, you know, whoever, a Post Malone or Travis Scott. These guys, they got like really clever melodies and all that kind of stuff. So I just rather focus on my strengths and focus on the things that I'm good at. And then if I need to bring in someone who can do that and execute that vibe, like I got a song on Indie Jones 2 called Hyena. And so my man Keyshawn, you're welcome, Keyshawn, did the chorus. And, you know, it was that, like, that vibe. And it was,
that's
I think he killed it.
That sounds kind of like, not John Legend-esque. Is that song?
No, this one's way more like ratchet. Like this is on some like some Travis Scott, you know, real auto tune.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
About is a song with Manny Wells. That's the song with Manny Wells. The song I did is Winona's song. That song I did to my sister-in-law. So yeah, so like I'd rather bring in someone that could actually pull off that vibe and kill it, and that's their thing, instead of me trying to do something that's not me. It's just not like I can't really sing like that. You know what I'm saying? I've tried, bro. Like in college, I was a choir. I was taking vocal training. Like I was really trying. And I just, you know, but I can give you these bars though. You know what I'm saying? Like I can rap, but I think maybe that's an advantage at times. You know, like maybe people like that. I'm the rapper that doesn't sing and rap, because now everybody sings and raps, you know, and I'm the dude that doesn't sing and rap. I just rap, and then I bring in the fly singers or the auto-tune dudes to add that color and that texture when I'm ready. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it just self-awareness, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know what I'm not good at, and right now I'm not good at. That doesn't say I won't get good at. Maybe I will, but it's just not my lane, you know?
Got it. So back to the business, man. Do you guys use Superphone?
I love Superphone, bro. Superphone is everything. That's the first line of defense for me. So
Yeah.
he actually reached out to me and told me I'm one of the top 77 users of Superphone, or top 70 users of Superphone, or something like that. So yeah, I have a very, like, you know, personal touch with all my audience. I think I have about almost 2,000 people in my Superphone contacts, and I be really on the Superphone. Like, I check it every day. I be texting with people, you know what I'm saying? Doing all kinds of stuff. The Superphone has been really helpful in just getting the information out. And then, like, we do stuff like this week, I don't know if you saw, but we did a flash hoodie sale. So for 24 hours, we did $25 hoodies, but you had to be on my Superphone to get the secret link. You know what I'm saying? And then Paul Russell accidentally leaked the link in his Instagram bio, and he didn't understand what was going on. It's just like, whatever, just, all right, links out there. You know what I mean? So we were able to do something like that. We have 24 hours, $25 hoodies. And we sold 80 hoodies, you know what I'm saying? Or I think we sold a little more than that. I got to check. I'm actually going to go to LA right now and go buy all the blanks and get ready to, you know, fulfill that order. The Superphone gives me the ability to mass text everybody and be like, boom, this is what's happening. You know what I'm saying? And I think the personal connection, like, I'm like, my entire thing, the entire Indie Jones philosophy is I'm trying to do opposite of what everybody's trying to do. So, like, rappers are trying to be cool and mysterious in Hollywood. And it's like, nah, I'm going to reply to every single comment on my Instagram. I'm going to reply to every single DM. I'm going to reply to every single text message. I'm trying to be as normal as possible, because I'm using that as a way to distinguish myself, you know, from a branding standpoint, but then also from just a marketing standpoint, because I'm always, it's to a level, there's always content. Me sending somebody a text message is a degree of content. Me replying to a text message is a degree of content. And it's small enough where, I mean, there's only 2,000 people. I'm probably getting a couple dozen text messages a day. It's not that hard for me to set aside 40 minutes and reply to all my Superphone contacts or all my DMs. You know what I mean? But that's very intentional. It's doing the opposite of how other rappers are trying to come off.
Dope. I figured that you had to be using it just because I've seen you, you know, requests for text and things like that before. And it's interesting that you said content, because that is a great way to think about it. Me saying, yo, what's up, man? Like, how you doing? That's still content in its own way. Or, yeah, that was dope. I appreciate it. Like, that small exchange is content. All right. And relationship, Ryan Leslie, he talks about relationships being about proximity and frequency. And that's all that is, like, us staying connected, because you create distance between any relationship, and then there's no frequency in the contact. Like, you lose that, just point blank. And I know a lot of people try to play with that when it comes to, you know, that mystique and whatever, all that stuff. But if you don't have a lot of money behind you, it's really hard to maintain that and always have to try and manage that. That becomes a thing to manage in itself. So
and I think you said it well. I watched your Producer Grind interview. I don't know how old that was, but it was around the time of your festival. I actually just watched it recently, and you said that branding is like the expression of who you are, like your brand, like almost like, you know, a Halloween costume. You know what I'm saying? Like, you wear marketing is releasing content and building that rapport with people. You know, and so I think sometimes we confuse the two altogether. That was actually one of the cleanest definitions I've ever heard. I was like, man, this man is killing it. So for me, it's like, I have a specific brand. I am the advocate for indie hip hop, you know what I mean? Being independent, being free. At the same time, I'm creating content to support that brand and to continue that, like you said, that frequency of relationship. And Ryan Leslie is a genius in his own right for developing the whole idea. And so dope.
I'm surprised that thing isn't bigger yet, because it at some point it's going to hit, and it's going to hit hard, but he's been rolling it out really slowly. I actually had Superphone for a decent period of time, but I had to use it differently because it's not on Android yet, and I have an Android. So I had to go ahead and cancel it for the time being. I don't know if I'm going to get an iPhone so I can use it because it's so useful, or if I'm going to, I don't know what, or just wait for the Android release. But Yeah.
I'm curious to see how Superphone scales to the bigger artists. Like, I would be curious to see how many contacts does Ryan have? How personal can you get it? Because from what I've heard, I think Andy Mineo, I think he has 500,000 Instagram followers, and Social Club. I think Social Club's like 100,000, 150,000 Instagram followers. They're both on, bigger platforms. I don't think it works for them. I don't think they could scale it at the same way, like where for smaller, middle income level artists, I think it's a really big advantage. But I think on that next level, like if you got 100,000 Superphone contacts, like, or Joyner Lucas is on Superphone, right? Like,
Yeah.
how does that even work? Like, how do you like you're not replying to everybody, and then it just feels like another bot. Now it just feels like another
Exactly. I would love to work with one of those artists on that scale, like just that specific project to figure out how to make that work, because I think it can, but it has to be some thought put behind it. I remember one of the people on the team telling me that they had some stuff for Cardi B on it, but I didn't get a chance to figure out what they did, but it probably was more of a one-off project versus ongoing relationship building, like what you use it for. But dope, man. So what you're using Superphone, and obviously that's like, it sounds like it's a core of your marketing and your marketing system. What does your marketing system really look like? You use Superphone as some back-end technology. Are there any other things that you use outside of just being YouTube, Instagram?
Yeah, YouTube, Instagram, and recently Patreon. So essentially my Superphone is a funnel to try to get people on Patreon, because that recurring subscription, you know what I'm saying? So I think we're at 61 Patreons. We started it July, something like that, which like I'm pretty stoked with the growth. You know what I'm saying? We have a couple bigger givers on there. So I love Patreon. I love the idea of having a subscription method and kind of creating and tailoring content for those very, very core. Those would be like your super fans, right? Like the people, so my goal is like to build Patreon. Once we get that to 100 people, to develop our podcast more. And so like I told you, like, I'm using some of the equipment right now, using multiple cameras on a podcast, a video switcher, scaling content. I love this, what you're doing here. I got to figure out how to do what software you're using for this, because I think this is super dope to do interviews like this, because I could do so many interviews with people, you know what I'm saying, if I knew that I could do this and it looks this great. Like, you look super clean on your end, and I have my camera connected. So I think that opportunity. But to get back to your question, marketing is Instagram, really good photos for Instagram, really taking time to learn Instagram. Right now I'm learning Lightroom, I'm understanding LUTs. My roommate who lives in the studio upstairs, in the bedroom upstairs, he's a photographer, videographer, he's incredible. So he takes most of my photos, but we're trying to really understand like the lighting, all that kind of stuff, the LUTs, the Lightroom. So natively doing that. And then YouTube for me is a way to do podcasts and have like long form conversations like this, where like we just dropped an hour-long live stream, multiple cameras on the King Stream YouTube page. And people watch that, right? And they love it. And they're like, this is incredible. But then we'll also do smaller segments. We'll take that live stream, we'll condense it down, and we'll scale it on my YouTube channel. So we just dropped a video today, or yesterday, Halloween, pagan, evil, or do Christians need to chill? And it's an entire video of me telling Christians, like, y'all, like, all of our holidays have pagan roots. Like, stop tripping. You know what I'm saying? Y'all need to chill. Like, with this whole, like, Halloween's evil. Like, what? Chill. And so now there's, so I took 1 hour-long piece of content, scaled it down to a 6-7 minute video, put it on my YouTube page. And so scaling stuff like that, I think is pretty cool. And so YouTube is like, I'm trying to add as much value as I can, and then also do as much conversation and challenging specifically Christians to think outside of the box. So we're talking about, our why tattoos aren't a sin, why y'all need to chill with Halloween. Can someone smoke weed and not be in sin? Like, controversial topics that a lot of people are asking. I want to create dialogue and really just force people to think critically. Because I'm sure in your experience with some Christians, like, you can really get sucked into the vortex of like groupthink. And that's low key how we elected Donald Trump, right? A lot of Christians was like, yeah, he's a conservative, like, chill, he's not. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm trying to get people to think critically about these different topics, And so that's the YouTube platform. Sometimes we scale that to Instagram, usually we don't. And then the Superphone, and then trying to funnel people into Patreon, because I think that's the big revenue stream that I see that I could really pop off. I got a couple buddies on Patreon. One of my best friends on Patreon, and his revenue streams is like almost like he's going to be probably at, what is it, 4, 5, but he'll be up 5 figures, you know what I'm saying? Probably within the next year or something on Patreon, you know,
Nice.
Which is crazy. And then, yeah, so just trying to diversify those revenue streams. So Patreon, the web store was just doing amazing after we did this hoodie sale, understanding flash sales, obviously Spotify, Apple Music, DistroKid, that money, you know, comes in. Sync licensing is amazing. If indie artists, I tell all indie artists, like if you're broke and you just started, lease your beats. If you got a spark and you got some momentum going, learn to produce your own beats or get your own producer, because sync licensing is huge for, you know, like we've had our, you know, one of our songs is on a Penny Hardaway commercial, Adidas commercials, all these different things, or just a small YouTube or wedding vlog. All these different things add up. And so sync licensing is a legit revenue stream. So diversifying those revenue streams and considering where and how to get more people really behind what we're doing.
Tell them about sync licensing real quick. I mean, just as your experience as an artist, because one thing I know about that sync licensing check, man, is it's a good check, and the work for it is different than having to go grind out some shows or build a fan base. You can have no fan base at all and get a few sync licensing checks. I've known people who got the 5, 10K checks and literally have 0 fans.
Yeah. Sync licensing, again, it's another one of those things that kind of levels the playing field, because it's really about the quality of your music and if it works in a specific format, a commercial, a movie, a TV show, whatever. Sync licensing historically for me has always been about like a lack of relationships. Like I just didn't have the relationships. And then somebody plugged me with MusicBed, who's the premier sync licensing platform, like for like upper echelon, you know, films and stuff like that. And they just liked our music. They take all of our music now. Well, they take most of our music now, and they show a lot of love, man. And so they're super dope. So they have a web portal where like the average YouTuber can go sync license music. And randomly enough, I found like one of my homegirls does like a beauty vlog. She has like 1 million Instagram subscribers. She's super popping, and like she like used one of my songs, tagged me in it, and I was like, and then I found out she did through MusicBed, and I was like, oh, that's dope. Like you could have just asked me, I would have been like, yeah, that's a great shout out. Just her posting my song in an Instagram clip, I picked up a bunch of like, you know, little girl followers, which is hilarious, you know. But MusicBed facilitated that. I didn't facilitate that. They took care of the payment. MusicBed, if you do a deal with them, for me, it's an exclusive 50-50 split. You know, we just do right down the middle. And yeah, you're right. A song from 4 years ago, and this literally happens. I have a wedding song on an album called Do For One. I wrote a song about being married called Good Thing. A song from 4 or 5 years ago gets synced today. Sometimes it's a $50 sync. Sometimes it's a $300 sync. You know, sometimes it's more than that. All that stuff culminates. And so MusicBed, I would, you know, check for MusicBed. They're very particular. I think they reject like 98.5% of everything that's submitted to them. But they're super dope. And between me and you, well, not me and you and the people watching this video, like I haven't done a show since, I can't even remember the last time I did a show. July. My last show was in July. You know what I mean? It's about to be November, you know? So like, I don't have to do shows. A lot of that is because of Patreon and MusicBed and sync licensing.
Nice. It's really dope that you've just been able to develop this legitimate income stream from your music. And with that being said, man, you being where you are right now as, you know, someone who owns a label, as an artist that's self-sufficient in their own right, and someone who has another artist on, what does planning look like for you? What's your plan for the rest of 2018 and going into 2019? Because I know you have a strategy.
Yeah, it's a great question. 2018, we're putting out the John Keith record. What we did with John Keith's new album is, as I'm mixing it, we have the album cover, but we have like 8 different album titles or like mocks of text or whatever. There's 3 or 4 different titles. We put all that up on Patreon, and we're letting our Patreons vote for his album title, trying to make it interactive. You know what I'm saying? So like they're voting on the album title right now. We're mixing that. That should be out before the year's out. I'm guessing maybe around Black Friday, maybe after that. So a whole nother thing, music videos for that, dropping content for that. Right after that, I'll probably come with Indie Jones 3 in January-ish. I'm not quite sure. And then a Paul Russell solo record, which is going to be incredible. He's working on it. I've been able to get ahead on music videos. We've been able to get ahead on these projects. So like a lot of this stuff's already done. It just needs to be mixed for the most part, you know? So Paul Russell record. And then we're going to do some shows. So I think we're doing a week on the East Coast. We're going to go from Toronto, Boston, Queens, maybe all the way south as Virginia. Maybe if we book Virginia, we might go all the way to Atlanta and just do like a week and a half all over the East Coast, do a spring, summer, West Coast tour, and then get back to Paul will be done at Cornell. Hopefully he'll move to California. I think what we might try to do, and I'm not quite sure yet, is we might just try to do a couple of different singles where every week maybe we'll drop a different single from an artist, or every other week, really cool videos, and see how we can work those, you know, for a season. And then before we go back into album mode, I'm sure you're familiar with Toby Nwigwe. I love what he's been able to do with his weekly videos. Before or around the time he started, I was doing these videos called weeklies, where I was doing a live one take video rap, like almost like a BT Cypher type vibe, but I was out in different environments. We're doing one takes. And me and Zach, my video guy, we did 24 of them for like 24 weeks straight. And dude, it was so grueling. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, having to write a song every week, memorize a song every week, and deliver it in one take every week. It was super hard, but it built the hype and the buzz and the excitement. And then I dropped Indie Jones 1 pretty much on the back end of all those songs. And then I was like, I can't do this. This is too hard. I can't do the label thing and do shows. And so I was like, you know, we're going to stop. But I want to bring back something like that. I like the idea of weekly content, but maybe not using live audio. Because if we could punch and we could cut, then it'll take us 30 minutes to shoot a video and way less time to memorize it, you know, versus like having to do a one take. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for 2019, man. Some more shows and really thinking through how we release the content, the podcast. You know, want to have you on the podcast, having better guests on a podcast consistently, covering everything from God to faith, to hip hop culture, to health and fitness. I've been on a crazy fitness journey. I just lost a bunch of weight, and, you know, goal is to get to 10% body fat. I think that's another thing that most hip hop artists aren't talking about. We're not sharing the information, you know, on how to get there nutritionally. So touching on all these different things to really help people understand, like, what is a full life look like? What does an abundant life look like? Maybe you're not sure about the Jesus thing. Maybe you're not all the way there, but you see, like, yo, like, these guys are happy. They love their wives. They have kids. They're making money. They're successful. Maybe there's something to their worldview. You know what I'm saying? Let me dig a little deeper, you know?
Dope, man. That sounds great. And I would love to see that weekly content thing of some sort between the three of you, even if it's not the same person, but at least
right. And I think that's how we'll be able to scale it, right? Because if it's somebody every other week, it's way easier than me having to do 26 in a row. You know,
you get that
terrible, bro.
Brand that label at the same time every single time. So you guys can start building a culture around that way. That's dope, man. Well, hey, I don't want to keep you for too much longer, man. I really appreciate the conversation. You've been super valuable to the audience. I already know. Is there any last thing you want to leave people with?
Man, make sure y'all subscribe to Brandman Sean. I'm like a fan. So when you hit me with this DM, I was like, yo, like, I was like, told my wife, I was like, I got to do this interview. Like, I was super excited. So make sure y'all subscribe to this YouTube channel, because besides you, Curtis King, I see very few people adding this much value to independent artists on YouTube. And I think it's a huge need right now, because there's a huge, huge opportunity to do. It took me 10 years to get to where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I've been full-time over 3. But I think if you guys are listening to the stuff Brandman Sean is talking about, and I'm sure we'll do stuff like this. I'll have him on my podcast. I think a lot of people right now who have a spark, I think we could see way more Chance the Rappers. I think we could see way more Macklemores. And then we could see way more guys, you know, on a smaller indie boutique level, like myself, getting to a place where you're living off of your art and enjoying it. And you may not be the richest dude in the world. Like, I ain't got my Tesla X yet. You know what I'm saying? But, like, man, I'm happy. I drive a Prius. My wife has a car. Like, we good. You know what I'm saying? And I think people can do that off of hip hop music if they subscribe, listen, and follow the advice that you're giving through this platform. So salute to you, man. That's what's up, man. I appreciate it, man. We're definitely gonna put all your social medias, you know, on the clip. But if you have any specific action items or places you want them to start to check them out, go ahead and let people know. Yeah. What we'll do is we'll link up. I'll send you the link to the how to get discovered on Spotify video. I think that'll be the easiest on ramp for them to your audience to kind of see what like the more linear tips that I give on the Spotify thing.
Bet. Love it, man. Well, hey, as always, everybody, if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like it, you might as well share it. And if you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button.